Hello?
Nsanyusa okuwuliza osinziddewo eddakiika zino.
Our dear, in English, ndowooza.
Wanji?
In English?
Speak to me whether in English or in Luganda, whatever you are happy and comfortable with. Oyagala kwogera otya?
In English.
Please go ahead and speak to me in English. Yes.
I first thank that our dear listeners of our dear viewers of UBC TV. I'm direct now in Mubende district. Mubende district, according to the turn up of the people, it was not good. It was still, right now it is still low. People coming one by one. So the situation, according to the turn up, it was not good. In some parts of Mubende district, in different polling stations, but the electoral commission have played their role, organized free and fair elections. Because the electoral arrangement, it was really good. For example, the electoral material used in the exercise arrived in the times or polling stations around the Mubende district.
Okay.
So on COVID-19, people have paid much to follow the guidelines of SOPs of COVID-19. Washing hands was mandatory. Also wearing a mask before entering the voting area was also mandatory. So they managed to follow the guidelines of COVID-19. But right now, the exercise, I can give you the situation now. They started now counting votes in some parts of Mubende and polling in some polling stations. The activities of counting votes has started now. Agenda?
Yes, Richard Tumsime.
Yeah.
Mbadde njagala onyambe ebintu bino byogedde obyogereko ne mu Luganda kubanga tulina ne audience yaffe ey'oku Star TV eyabategeera n'abawulira Oluganda byompadde bina mu Luzungu ddamu obintemeretemeremu okwo mu Luganda manye embeera nga bwefaanana gy'oli.
Omulabi waffe owa UBC TV ne Star TV right now ndi mu bitundu by'e Mubende nga okuweereza updates byonna ebigenda mu district y'e Mubende okulonda kukyagenda mu maaso mu bitundu ebisinga kuba saanapu y'abantu saanapu
Ochario? Oh, sorry. Okay. Fortunately, he had given us the overview in English of what is actually happening in Mubende. Now, the tallying and the counting has actually begun and started, and here is where we are. Well, Mubende is one of those districts. There, of course, there are not so many voters there. There are about 16 districts that have the big number of voters when you look onto the register, and these are the game changers, I could say. So we just want to know what will come out of the election later on to do the assessment and see how it shall have played out. But here, yes, Mututa, here is where we are. When we broke off, we were trying to we were trying to look into the quality. We were trying to look into the qualifications of many of these people. What needs to be done? Do we need to get to levels of, yes, coming to the district council, coming to parliament, as you are because you're the people's choice, but then when you get here, then we take you through quite a number of things.
There is this argument of people saying the academic qualifications has nothing to do with the quality of leadership. And some are saying, like he put it, that at one point this country had members of parliament who necessarily were not had gone far in education, but what they did is not comparable to what members are doing today. But you also need to look at that as then and now, because in comparative politics, we compare systems and individuals across the board. Not the other way around, upside down, because you can now not compare our grandfathers and us today, because there are many things that have happened. But of course, it is true that sometimes you have good leaders, much as they have not gone very far in education. But today's education is also tagged to a lot of our social life. that you may not be able to do a lot of things when you have not attained that level of education, to the level that, because we are living in a globalized society, that you should be able to interpret certain images, certain issues without necessarily having to ask someone. That education, it may be, of course, even the issue of education is also now discussable, but that education, that will help you to relate with others, to talk with others, to discuss with others and argue with others from a point of information. Now, without that, it becomes very tricky to hold a position, and that's why the insistence of civil servants, those who are doing government work, those who are doing, who are serving the population, to go to school. You must at least have attained a level of education that will help you to be able to discuss and interpret things and follow things. But without education, even leadership is completely affected, because there's no way you are going to say someone is born a natural leader and does not need education. And we have seen most of the leaders who have been actually very good leaders as of now, people he mentioned some of them. We have people who have PhDs, people who are doctors, people who, but when they go join education, you find that there is something that they are doing. Of course, there are also exceptional cases where you find even professors, but when they get to leadership, they also get lost. There are also such cases. But education in all aspects is very key, because it delineates a person from the traditional, not actually traditional, because tradition is not bad, but from the crude way of doing things into a more scientific manner of handling issues, of relating with the people. Like I told you, we have related with some of these leaders, and you are like, where on earth was this man brought, or woman for that matter, was brought up? Because they were, you know, of a person who was attending an end of year party those days, and at an embassy, and began throwing wine on the guests at the embassy of that party. And then you wonder, where did this person really, because at that level you are an embodiment of your country and an embodiment of your society. When you begin behaving like that, people will begin not looking at you, but looking at where you are coming from. Is this type of a person who have had also people who have lived with us, then when they begin behaving, and then people now relate you with, say, hey, you are behaving like this type of person, you are relating like certain people behave in a particular way, which is not scientific. But what we are saying is that there must be at least a formal way of education to some level that you are able to relate with others. If we can raise it to be a district councillor, if we want to have our strong now district councils, you must have to a level of being an MP, because we should see not many councillors also leaving councils going to parliament, because as of today we are seeing a lot of traffic of chairpersons who are coming to parliament.
Chairpersons and councillors.
Yes. But we are not seeing many MPs who are
getting back to the districts.
Yeah, exactly.
It's actually not even imaginable in this country. Cole, talk about that.
No, I think I had earlier talked about it, saying that in other countries, Ghana, I beg your pardon, that
Nigeria
and Kenya, somebody actually resigns a cabinet post to run as governor. Why? Because it is a center of power. You almost a president, you have a region to look after, you have a huge budget, than being a minister who can be sacked anytime. You actually appoint your secretaries and then and then you sack. But now when it comes to this, you know that it is in terms, it's economical. Leaving a job of 20 plus millions, coming for a job where you are not sure of earning 2 millions. Now, at district level, remember, even your geographical area is bigger than a constituency, and when you campaign, you have to spend a lot of money.
More than an MP.
Actually, more than an MP. But when you look at what you get, is totally different. But getting back to the issue of leadership, of getting the quality of leadership, I think really, naturally, we tend to gauge how people they have improved extrinsically. not intrinsically. Now intrinsically in terms of how much they have added on to themselves in terms of knowledge, in terms of knowing what to do. But for us who are just concerned with the surrounding, Jagenda, you are voted in as an MP or chairman LOC5. The next thing I need to see is the when you're dressed in a new suit. You wouldn't
a new car.
A new car. But if I went to your home and you said, look here, the other time I did not have the Local Government Act, it is here. I did not have the Constitution.
It's here.
Then I'll begin doubting you. You get it? So that is how we are. That's where we are. Because I read some books about Nkrumah, and he said that in their days as leaders, they used even to exchange books. Say, hey, this is a good book, please carry look for it and read it. Which is not the practice now. I think the practice is, I think this is a good car. I think it's good for you. This is a good house. I think this. I'm sending you this company. You give them a tender. You equally send. So that is the discussion. So the discussion is not about what vision you have for the people, but the discussion is about how do you change yourself to impress actually the voters. Yes, to impress the voters. Yes, that is the thing.
Now, before we get to the other parts of the country where we'll hear from our reporters, there's something that I also want us to discuss. Now, talking about the policies which seem to be so scholarly for Uganda's case, for example. Now, remember, we have what we call the Vision 2040. We have the third National Development Plan now that we're implementing. And, of course, subsequently, we have the one-year financial year plans that we keep getting into. All these political parties, well, at least 3 or 4 of them had manifestos, which I'm very sure even the people holding flags for these particular parties did not even get into reading these manifestos to actually know. Now you can put to task any member of maybe the National Resistance Movement to actually explain to you the manifesto of NRM. Or you ask anybody from the FDC, NUP, DP, ANT, and all these others. Now, when you look at all these very scholarly documents that we have, you will notice that because we have a vision to achieve Vision 2040, you'd think that districts at their level, when they are making these plans and doing all the things, they have to have been constant with the National Development Plan 3 now that we have and the Vision 2040. Now, in a situation where these are too academic, that our councillors, our political leaders, whom we actually understand, whom we relate with, Ugandans relate with their political leaders as opposed to the technical people, because they even do not know how a cow comes into the district. They don't know how we get a CFO. They do not know how we get all these others. They relate with the politicians because they know that we gave a mandate to a call to Mututa, to Jagenda, and that's it. How should we manage this to be able to deliver services? Because the essence of decentralization, by and large, is to ensure that actually services come to the people, wherever they are.
No, I think that one, if really people were keen on doing their jobs, I don't think that.
Which people are you talking about?
Of course, now I'm breaking them down. We have an RDC. Before they used to be called the Central Government Representative. So the RDC, that is his role, because he is the.
What is his role?
That is the bridge. He is the representative of the central government, a representative of the president. Therefore, if that is the manifesto of the ruling party, the manifesto of the president, it's incumbent upon him to summarize it. Okay, and then give it. Secondly,
which is actually true, but you see, we'll talk about the quality of the RDC also, because you notice that many RDCs actually also failures in an election. When they bang in an election, then they actually gift it. Many of them actually come lobbying and saying, because I can so make me an RDC of anything.
So the other person is that we have a whole directorate of information
and national guidance.
I don't know. And national, director of information at the party headquarters in NRM. They also have another director of mobilization. But equally important, you have a ministry of national guidance. Yes. So I think that is their role, that they need to break down the manifesto, if need be, translate it, yes, to in the local dialects, and then also have sessions with the local government. Say, look here, this is where we're heading as a government for the next 5 years. This is what we are supposed to be doing. So the organs are in place, but just as you say, or just like many people say, Uganda, we are a paper tiger.
But also at the same time, when you look at excuse me, at the policies between the centers, the parliament and the local government, you realize there are also, like you did mention, the issue of friction and the animosity between the members of parliament and the chairpersons of the districts. How are we getting these policies? Are these policies bottom up or up bottom? Because that's also the other thing. For example, if I'm a member of parliament as of today, I would wish to make policies that reinforcing stonewalling my position, that I remain the only person who is looked at.
Who understands that.
Exactly. So that the local government may not be able to understand that. But even when you look at that, at these policies, for me, I would have wished to see most of these policies coming from down, from the local governments, sitting down to discuss issues of national nature, so that when they come to parliament, they are sieved and integrated in the development and other programs of government. But now, given that type of leadership at the local level, and in fact, in the future, I will not be surprised when they say, now let's change the name from local to something else, because when you call us local, we are being so much localized. Now, that local level of discussion should be able to guide the national level of discussion. If it is education, what can we do to improve our education? Because these are the last users of the government services, they should be able to feed back the information that the government can use to be able to improve these plans. I know that happens, there is that synergy and feedback of that information. But I would wish to see local governments coming up with more robust policies that will be able to be adopted in the national plans to be able to have this bottom-up planning. But at the same time, when you look at our MPs, when we talk of the motivation, it is, of course, you are looking at parliament, which should decide that let the chairpersons of the districts improvement, their emoluments be improved. But do you think they can do that? No, because they know, should they do that, they are losing their grip, they are losing their positions. And that when you facilitate the chairpersons of the districts, then you are getting away the power from the members of parliament. At the same time, you realize that you, for once, you can close your eyes and the member of parliament is not in a picture, but you cannot do that when it comes to a local government, because all the deliverables are supposed to be there. But lastly, you also see that I think members of parliament are the ones who decide their salaries,
which is not the same with the district councils or the district chairpersons. Well, I think you just hold it here. I'll get back to you. Onyango Robert, a reporter from Western Uganda, is actually ready to give us some updates from that area. Yes, Onyango Robert. Well, a very good evening. I know you are in Western Uganda. Are you in Tungamoru, Kunjiri? Where are you?
Yeah, earlier on in the day I've been in the Rukungiri district and parts of Kabale, but I'm back in Tungamoru district.
Okay.
For the Tallying center.
Well, that's a very good thing. Tell us what is happening that side.
The entire process seems to be disastrous. I mean, the low turn-up of voters has been witnessed in the 3 districts where I have tried to traverse for the whole day. I was in the Rukungiri district in the morning hours up to almost midday. It was totally a very disrupted process where voters' turn-up was very, very low. Very, very low at almost all the polling stations. You know, Rukungiri has 404 polling stations and the number of registered voters is approximately 190,000 voters. But by midday, I can tell you nearly a quarter of that number had shown up at all the 404 polling stations. it was a very, very, very low turnout voting exercise.
From your personal assessment, Onyango,
Yes.
what do you think the turn-up will be in terms of percentages?
You know, for presidency in Tungamu district and members of parliament, it was at 72% in Rukungiri. I mean, now this one for mayors and district chairpersons, it can even go as low as 40 or 45.
Okay.
Because you don't see, there was no hope of people coming up. I was interacting with some polling agents, they were like, we even don't know what's happening. People really lost morale. I don't know, the first election went in their favor or it went the other side, so that's why they are saying it's a done business.
Okay.
There's also a lot of debate that why do we go for the election of presidents and members of parliament before we go to this royal election? Some are proposing this could have been the first election before we switch to the other much anticipated elections of the presidents and members of parliament.
Good suggestion. Okay, take us through the other places where it's also been. You've been to Rukungiri, you said, in Tungamu and Kabale, yes?
Let's first go to Kabale. Kabale, the way a big scenario, almost, it was a few kilometers away from the district, there was a polling station there. But by midday, there were no polling materials. The polling agents and the officials were already at that polling station by 8. As early as 8, I was told they were there. But by midday, there were no polling materials at that polling station. Although even the voter turnout was very minimal. Very few voters had turned up at that polling station to cast their vote. But I was told before I left, the polling materials were at the end delivered and voting at that station went on. I was told by the district returning officer that that particular polling station, they will give in more time to allow voters to cast their vote. That is in case when they will turn up, or by the time of closure of voting at 4 p.m. when the numbers will be still on the line.
How many contestants are in the race, for example, in Kabale where you are, for Mayor of Kabale?
Mayor of Kabale has 4 contestants.
Yes.
For that race, and the biggest race is between the independent called Abraham Chomukama and one called Bajiendeza Moses. That is of NRM. You know, very many people are counting at those two. At the end of the day, that they might be going to be probably announced winner for mayor. Then there's also a whole race of the district chairperson. It has 6 candidates. And still the NRM candidate is automatically being looked at as the potential winner.
For which district is this?
That is Kabale district.
Okay, Kabale district, yes.
Then let's go to Untungam district, where I've just returned a few minutes ago. I'm trying to assess. I've moved it to a few polling stations. Yes, time is up for vote tallying. That is at exactly 4 p.m. But still, there are no voters at almost the polling stations. You can see the SPCs, the police constables who are guarding the process, the election officials. The agents are just chilling at the polling station. I've been contacting some of the candidates within here in Tungamu. I'm asking them what are they looking over, and most of them seem to be confused because they have no hope that voters will turn up or will show up. It has been also entirely a very deserted process in Tungamu. The condition is very conducive. You don't see that much sunshine. You don't see any rain coming. But still, voters are not up. But when you move around in Tungamu district, people are on their business. I've been talking to a few people within the district. What's really happening? And some told me, you know, we really voted at first. We don't see the need of going back to vote.
Now, looking at the turn-up as it's been and the number of people who have come to vote, do you think that by latest 10 o'clock the results shall be released? Everything, the tallying and declaration shall have been done at that time?
Yes, in most polling stations where I have been here, like 2 to 3 here in Tungamu, they are even counting as we speak. Counting and tallying of votes has already commenced. But the final results, we shall have to wait at least up to 9 or 10. I think results from the district study center will start flowing in as far as this particular election is concerned.
Okay. Well, I thank you so much, Onyango. That's indeed very good. Any more thing that you'd love to let us know?
Celebrations for NRM party are still going on in the western parts of the country.
Celebrating what?
victory of the NRM, win the presidential and members of parliament.
Okay.
Up to today, celebrations are still on in this western part of the country.
How are the celebrations being conducted amidst the COVID-19 pandemic that we have? How are they doing it? Are they flouting the COVID guidelines and rules?
For sure, the COVID-19 guidelines were flouted. Even on the voting day, we did see voting, social distancing.
Yeah, maybe because they were looking for votes and were voting. How about when everything is done? Have they still stayed adamant like that?
You know, even the worst of it in these parts of the country, like Western, where I've been for the last 1 week, very many people still have that conception that COVID-19 doesn't exist. When you move around these districts, you rarely see people putting on the face mask. And imagine if they see you putting on it, you become even a tourist.
Oh, you become something, a tourist attraction because, finally, night curfew is still on at 9 o'clock. How is business there? Because whatever we do, we make sure that by 9 o'clock we've run out of the city to go back to our cribs.
The only district where I've seen, or the city where I've seen curfew being enforced is in Imbarara. But I tell you, for the case of Rukungiri, Ntunga, Mukavale, there is no curfew. No,
there is curfew. They only just flout it, maybe.
People freely move beyond curfew time. Bars are open beyond curfew time. Unsurprisingly, the policemen know the army moving, patrolling.
But the lockdown on bars was not yet lifted. How do they? That's not lifted. Which bars are operational? Drinking is not a problem, but I think bars is what the problem.
Where to get the drink?
No, you get the drink from the supermarket. Onyanga, I want to thank you.
And I said that is as open as anything.
Thank you so much, Ndugu Onyango. We thank you so much. Onyanga, our correspondent, has been traversing the areas of Arukunjiri, Ntungamo, and Kavale. Kabale is again in Hoima, but Kabale now is the Ruchiga one. That's where he's been. And he says in Ntungamo, for example, during the general elections, the turn-up was 72%. I just think it will be about 40. Now let's look at this, because what happens with local governments is a winner takes all, and there's no threshold for winning. Isn't it also bad that because there's no threshold for general presidential elections, you see people encouraging themselves to go because either you want to reduce the margin of the one that you think will win, and the one who thinks will win also wants to ensure that they actually get higher points.
That's
50+1 majority. Now at the local government where there is no threshold for going through, it's winner takes all, whatever. How do you feel that in a district that has, for example, Wakiso, 1.16 million voters, you have only maybe 20,000 who have come to vote for you, and you are the chairperson of all of those? What's the feeling like?
I think there's general presumption that we have been talking about, that local governments in our system, in our today administration, not a lot of attention has been paid to that area, that any person can be anything. Of course, we even until recently now that maybe some of the cities are being, of the municipalities are being graduated to city status, there will be the requirement of the mayors. But in the past, a mayor would be anyone. And you end up with a mayor, whether has gone to school or not, as long as he qualifies to be there, he is there. But now with some of these towns being upgraded, so I think the Ministry of Local Government needs to come up with guidelines on the leadership and leadership structures in the local government. Otherwise, we are losing out on that, because if we are building democracy, then we need to build it from down, not from up. Because now when people talk about democratic development, advancement in Uganda, blah, blah, they are all looking at parliament. They are not looking generally at local governments. But that is the credo of where we get this leader. So I think it is also good to go down there. But like last time when I was summarizing, we were saying, because when you are looking at the friction again between the civil servants and of course that triangle, the MPs, the local government, and also civil servants, technically the MPs sat down and locked out civil servants, because what happened in the past was that most of the civil servants would end up in parliament, because while the members of parliament are here, a civil servant in a district or a department of government would be mobilizing people down on the ground. And that's why they came up with this policy of resigning, that you must resign your position if you want to go for elective politics, even before you are nominated. In the past, you would, as soon as you win, then you tender in your resignation from the position where you have. But these people realize that if they leave that open, more civil servants are going to be knocking them out of parliament. So they insist that you should be resigning your position before you participate in elective politics. But bad as it sounds, you also realize, in fact, I come across this recently when they were, yesterday I think, when they were electing members of interest groups, that to qualify to be elected as a member of parliament representing workers, you must resign, because that is now law. You must resign your position as a worker. It's an irony, because a woman will represent women in parliament because she's a woman. The youth would do that from a constituency of the youth. But a worker cannot represent workers in parliament as a worker unless he has resigned his position as a worker. Then what happens? You are no longer a worker.
You're representing workers.
So these are some of the discrepancies, and in the future I would want to see someone go to court to challenge some of the things. That why should I resign a position which is qualifying me to go to parliament for which to represent people? But like I'm saying, I think there is a lot of oversight to issues that really would help us to build a stronger democracy, more especially beginning from downwards than looking at the top. We're looking at parliament, who goes to parliament, and that is why I think Onyango was talking about it.
Okay.
From the presidential and parliamentary,
it's
now
different.
Yes, now the
steam has come down.
Has slumped.
Okay.
Down.
Well, Paul, in just 1 minute, I want us to hand over to Jordan Lokomwa, where the tallying has actually started, and to just let the people know that going forward, we'll now just take you to the centers where the tallying is happening. Then we'll return later, but also remind you that today is inauguration day for the U.S. President-elect. He will be sworn in today, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. So we'll still come and give you some analysis on this, but we'll now go to Jordan and just let you take us through business as it happens, because at the end of the day, we want to know who is coming into the City Hall. To you, Jordan.
To you and to the viewer out there, yes, we are coming to you live from Chitinta, the polling station here, and we stopped as we saw the voters and the elections officials here starting to count. They have already started to count, so we want to give you a glimpse of what is happening, how they are counting, and at the end of the day, we want to know who is winning this particular polling station. So my camera person will come a bit closer, so that we give you a picture of who is winning and how the counting is going on here. Many polling stations have started counting, and here in Chitinta, that is exactly what is going on. Yes. So, they have counted Jose Chameleon, Raggedy, and right now those are the ballots that the voters in this area have casted for candidate Arias Lukwago, who is also the incumbent Lord Mayor.
Kano ka Joseph Mayanja. Joseph Joseph Mayanja mbu obokumi Lukwago
Yes, to you watching UBC TV, that has been the tallying here at Chitintale polling station, and according to the gatherings, the incumbent Lord Mayor, Elias Lukwago, has managed to garner 153 votes. Ragadi, that is Daniel Kazuwe, the NRM candidate, has garnered 15 votes, and Chameleon, another senior artist also in the race, has garnered 10 votes, and Nabila Nagai has been Lukwago's closest contender in this particular polling station with 36 votes. So Lukwago wins this particular polling station with 153 votes here, just as you can see, and his supporters are already celebrating the victory. Sebo jebaliko kamuna jero nawe jebaliko kale okulonda bwekyo kugenza mu kitundu kyammwe Lord Mayor Elias Lukwago wangudde n'obululu 150 mu busatu. Just okubuzako olowooza lwaki abantu be mu kitundu kino balowoozeza bwe batyo nti Lukwago ye yandibadde omutuufu. Abantu bakizudde nti tebasobola yasobola Museveni bagenza okizibula na biira atagala ddeno neri nga tasobola kola ki tosobola kuwana biira kawulu adaga enkyali wano leero ali wano wali ali eri abana Kampala tebasobola kola ki kumukwasa Kampala era mbebaza bebala okumanya nti omulodi waali tebamukwasa ekibuga. weraliikirira ko bivudde mu bitundu birala oba binakyusa embeera
edda ekifuda kigenda okulamula kubanga wano wali abalongo yewa
mukulu gwe ebitambudde mutakusaidia
muganda wange luno lweyo lukyayera okuviira ddala wansi paka wansi luno lweyo yadde bagamba nti tribalism naye ebyo twabimanyidde babeere nga babyogera tribalism naye ffe tugenda kwera nuupu egenda kuwangula buli wamu wano mu Buganda.
So that is the situation. We want to talk at least to one of the electoral officials here to tell us how the process has been. Madam, good afternoon. Yes, how has been the process since morning to right now that you are closing? Okay. Okay, it looks like the electoral officials in this place do not want to talk to the media, but at least successfully they have finished their session for today. We want to get to know what is at the neighboring polling station. Let us get back to you, Jagenda Samakula, in just a while. Back to studio.
It is intellectually engaging.
Court does not sit to waste its time. If you have no defense, it chases you.
It is a ruling on the foundations. Business has been conducted in a certain way.
Banks take money from us, depositors. All of us seated here have got money in the bank. And even before you walk out, they've given that money to somebody else.
Deeply incisive.
Here is a credible alternative political force.
Let's get into this election and let's choose right.
Through that vote that you will contribute towards building a new Uganda.
Authentically symbolic and insightful.
We should work so hard to evacuate this power.
Behind the headlines, every Wednesday at 10 p.m. with Charles Odongto.
A very welcome.
Probably the most experienced talk show moderator in Uganda, with a team of illustrious panelists. Honorable Abdul Katuntu, a seasoned legislator, politician, and senior lawyer. Honorable Margaret Mohanga, a veteran journalist, legislator, entrepreneur, and development consultant. And Ramadan Gobi, an economist and university don.
There is no country which has lost, which has failed or has had collapsed democracy when it is above $6,000. So,
all on your public broadcaster, UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Ngome mite piri machala bolquir me achiel berika bolquiri kana me choye ye nyut kad me bolquiri man to ber national ID nyu papara me nyuru kana me bolquiri ye man voter location slip kai pe kere enama kwanano pe bedi luor morken pien ador yope ka bolquir man presiding officer binu konyi meneno kanyiti ye ibuka me nyingo bolquiri ye ameno kere nyonyo computer ador yup me ka bolquir binu mokoni ini ye no kuntiyo kere nyonyo ame yiri dio chi ye ka mokoni ini ye no obindo me yi papara me bolquir ameno tie kere chal kere nyingo chung wodo yi bechen kai gwet wonni kuni tiyo kere lam onye dio chi chanduk ame chokere chalere doldong papara me gwerni kitama dor yup me ka bolquir otiti kede wodong kana me chanduk me bolquir tiye kai boli ye idiro akoj gora dor yup me ka bolquir binu keto inki nyako chi menyuto ni inde tiyo bolquir ko ti kere twero ni me yero telani poyo ni ka bolquir duchu binu yabere chako chawa chel mediku wot kere chawa par me tino dong pira tek bi beri ka bolquir John wehe bolquir pinga chatut wori website i www.ec ngejman akeli ena ye dulamelo yer Uganda man Electoral Commission.
Good morning, Uganda. Today is a great day to make someone's day. A wonderful day to rewrite the future. Today is a beautiful day to light up their world. A marvelous day to make a brand new start. The perfect day to make the world smaller. Uganda, today isn't just another day. Today is your day. Airtel Money, with you always. Airtel Money, quick, secure, borderless.
Fruitvale Fruit Juice. Our journey begins in orchards where some of the best fruits are grown. Fruitvale Fruit Juice is 100% natural with no added sugar, filled with the wholesome goodness of vitamins and minerals that nourish your body and delight your taste buds. Enjoy real fruit juice in orange, tomato, apple, beetroot with mango, lemon mint with cucumber, mango, berry and tropical variants. Grab your Fruitvale 100% fruit juice today. Available in all leading supermarkets.
noyetagisibwa kinko mutezi wa karuru ahizoba ryo kutera karuru genda uba kuterera karuru ahiwaye handikisize nko mutezi wa karuru yoreke ndangamuntu yawe ninge biri kukwataho ebyo kuteza karuru waba utina biri higuru nubasa kuyambibwa presiding officer okucebera ebiri kukwataho aha National Voters Register. Omutezesa wa karuru naza kucebera ebihandiko byawe ari kukozesa biometric voter verification machine kureba byaba byikire. Ofisa yaheza kukucebera naza kukuhereza aho kuterera karuru. Gumiza mojende aha bafu oterere wori kwenda ori kukozesa tik ninge kinkumu. Zinga urupapuro ruwaterera ha karuru nkoko uri kutezesa karuru arakworekere. Gumiza mojende aha boxi oteke mu rupapuro ruwaterera ha karuru kawe. Omuwezi wori kutezesa karuru naza kutekaho bwino aha nono yawe kwereka ngubitu wateira karuru. Kozesa obugabe bwawe kutura na bebembezi bawe. Oine kukimanya ngo mwanya gwo kutererwa ha karuru ni gwigurwa shahe mwezo mukasheshi gucingwa shahi 10 zo mwabazi. Genda utera karuru kawe omubwire. Genda ha www.ec.or.ug okumanya bindi ebiri kukwata oko kubasa kutera karuru. Obutumwa obu ni bukureterwa aba Electoral Commission.
This is Auntie Jovita, your friend, your mentor, and your mother. Someone who wishes you so well. I am here to talk about a very sensitive topic, and this is teenage pregnancy. Teenage pregnancy is bad. Don't get involved in it. Because it affects you. It will affect your relationship with your friends. It will affect your relationship with your siblings. It will affect your relationship with your family, the community, the school. You know, it will affect almost everything around you. Today, we've had issues of girls getting pregnant. Do you know how bad that is to you? Do you know how it is going to affect your education? Do you know how it's going to affect your life? Do you know how it can affect your health the rest of your life? Because your body is not yet ready to have a pregnancy, to carry a baby, and here you are, so many complications, and there's always a financial constraint in it, because someone has to take care of you, someone has to make sure that you're getting all the support you need, which you could have done when you get pregnant, when you're mature, and you have your job, and you have someone responsible you can put up there and say, please, this is who he is, and we can work on it and look after our baby. But here, you are leaning on your family, which is not good. Stay safe and avoid teenage pregnancy.
Well, thank you so much. Lots of things continuing to happen. We just went to Chitintale, where we saw Lord Mayor incumbent Erias Lukwago taking the lead there at that particular polling station where our own Jordan Lukomwa was stationed. Now the closest to get closer to Erias Lukwago was Nabira, but with a very big margin. And from one of the interviews that Jordan Lukoma conducted there, is that the people look at Nabira as somebody who has no sides, and of course we just wait to see. We talked about that here and said when you do not turn up to vote, normally vote up at the benefits the incumbent, and we might not be surprised when we get to the outcomes of this particular election that has just ended an hour and a half ago. Now, from all that, things are continuing to happen. Remember, today is the 20th of January, and 20th of January every 4 years, Americans do inauguration of a new president or the incumbent taking another term of office. Now, particularly and specifically today, we'll see President Joe Biden and Kamala Harris also taking oath. Now, Joe Biden as the 46th president of the United States of America, with so many things incredibly happening that it's going to be the first time since 1869 that the outgoing president snubs the inauguration of the incoming president. Now, this is what President Trump has actually done. He picked a plane and flew away to Andrews Base, and now just waiting for the Air Force to actually take him to Florida. But he's not going to be part of Joe Biden's inauguration.